Hey guys, it's Edwin here, and I hope you've been having a wonderful week. It's been a while since I shot these videos. I was in a short break doing some masterclass, and I'll be launching it soon. So stay tuned. Today we're going to talk about emotional abuse. So we've all heard of this statement. At least it was not physical. It's actually one of those statements even we even ourselves we might tend to make when someone is or someone has been in an unhealthy relationship. In fact, like before I started learning about toxic relationships and educating myself on things like emotional abuse or narcissism, I remember sometime in the past where someone close to me, like very close to me, was telling me this told me this statement. He has never raised his hand on her. He's not that bad. Like she was implying that the husband to someone close to me was is not that bad because he has never beaten her. And actually, it's one of those statements that always waters down any other form of abuse which is not physical abuse or which is not clear physical violence. And what that is what this video will be about. And at that moment, I wasn't much aware, but I still felt like it didn't really make sense for someone to persevere or someone to stay for so long in an abusive relationship, or let's call it unhealthy marriage, which had everything undesirable. It had like things like yelling, financially abusive ways, control, like emotional unavailability, and any other kind of unhealthy behavior you can think of. It was just devoid of physical violence. So it had all those undesirable things you don't like in life, like emotional pain, being emotionally overwhelmed, but it didn't have physical violence. So it was more of, as long as there's no physical scar, it's not abusive or it's not that bad, and you should live with it. And actually, that's what we've been really told. So everyone around you who's not experiencing physical abuse is in a normal kind of relationship, and it's actually the thing we use to measure the healthiness of a relationship, like physical violence or physical abuse. It's actually one of those reasons which made me to think so hard or detest marriage in some sense, because I felt like it didn't make sense. I'm seeing people unhappy, I'm seeing people persevering, people in pain, and actually that's the thing which led me into this path. And actually, I'm so grateful that I followed this path, because now I'm more of unlearning the things I've learned. I'm unlearning the things I've picked up from my upbringing and from my conditioning. And that's why I learned about things like conscious relationships, narcissistic abuse, as well as emotional abuse. And that's what this video will be about. It will be about emotional abuse. And actually, being from a country like Kenya, I've always seen other emotionally abused people drag other emotionally abused people back to their emotionally abusive relationship. Just like I know you know about the crab mentality, where like someone is in a pit and then they pull you back to the pit. That's what normally happens. Just because someone is not physically violent, someone is told to go back to their emotionally abusive marriage. Of course, I didn't understand all these things, but they didn't make sense. But when I started opening my eyes, I now know why people drag others back to those emotionally abusive marriages, and at the same time, people themselves drag themselves back to those emotionally abusive marriages. And I'm going to explore further the meaning of emotional abuse and why it's so dangerous, and why not everything which is just physical abuse is dangerous. Even emotional abuse is also dangerous. And I'm also going to share with you how you can spot these kinds of abuse, so that you can be well informed. At least you can be well informed to help someone who's close to you, or well informed to leave a relationship which is emotionally abusive. So first, let's understand this. What is emotional abuse? So emotional abuse may have various definitions or various names depending on different books or different articles, but for the purpose of this video, I want us to use it as any as define it as any consistent or repetitive pattern of harmful behavior that is not physical, or that is not physical violence, but leaves a dent in your self-worth and self-esteem, as well as undermining your mental health. So it's anything which is aside from physical violence but still has an effect on who you are. So, like in simple terms, it's that harmful behavior portrayed by someone else that doesn't leave a physical scar in you, but it eats you on the inside. It's like physically you look okay, like this person has not done anything to you, and also there is no clear visible scars, there are no clear bruises, but inside you feel so dead. Inside you feel like you are a different person. Inside you feel like you can't even eat. You feel so stressed on the inside. That's why it's a hidden form of abuse, because you may not see the bruises, you may not see the scars. Also, others may not see the scars and the bruises, but the damage is being felt on the inside, or on the way you carry yourself on your day-to-day life. You may be stressed, you cannot concentrate throughout the day. You've not been beaten or physically battered or anything, but during the day you're just so stressed. So, and the perpetrator of this kind of emotional abuse can be like your family member, your partner, your friend, or just someone close to you. And the thing about this form of abuse is it's the hardest forms of abuse to even recognize, because of course of the stigma around it, and its subtlety, like it's so subtle, and of course lack of awareness. But it's very, very dangerous. This because like it erodes who you are, like it destroys your identity without you being aware of what's really going on. It's like termite eating you on the inside without really you knowing about what's going on. Like it's just so under the radar to the point that you won't even know what hit you. Like you just find yourself being depressed, but you don't know what's hitting you. Of course, you might have these instances of feeling that something feels off, like why is your partner calling your name, calling you names, or telling you that he loves you or she loves you, but doing things on the contrary. But you can't really speak out about it, because very few people will hardly believe you. I want you to imagine this. Imagine me, like let's say a macho man like me, coming out and sharing to my parents or to my boys or just people close to me and telling them, hey, my wife is emotionally abusing me, like my wife is intimidating me, my wife is subjecting me to various emotional tortures. Of course, the common response I'll get will be something like, hey man up. Like a man is not like a woman is not supposed to like abuse a man. It's not really possible. Of course, that will further like leave a dent in my already fragile fragile self-esteem. So it's very stigmatized, and the same case applies to anyone, actually, any kind of gender, anyone who's been subjected to emotional abuse. Like they don't really have clear evidence in quotes to prove the claims. Like you may not have clear claims even to present in a court of law or to present your in-laws about your abusive husband or abusive wife. In fact, it's mostly viewed as just it's just words, stop being petty. So it's normalized to the point where someone is afraid to speak up or get out of that abusive relationship because you don't have any kind of evidence to tell those close to you or to tell your in-laws or your parents. And everyone takes this only option, which is suppressing their emotions and sticking to that abusive relationship. And of course, we know the effects of suppressing. It will ruin your mental health, and it will even push you, and in the long term, it will lead to effects like having PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, or feeling depressed, and all those things may lead to suicide or self-harm. That's why we may be asking ourselves sometimes, like, we didn't know that this person was depressed just because of the stigma around all these things. Another thing about emotional abuse is, as I said, it kills your inner strength, or it kills your inner voice, to the point where, of course, you cannot stand for yourself or even stick to your boundaries. So it's crippling you and paralyzing you on the inside to the point that you can't even raise your voice. So you just remain silent. And something about silence in the world of abuse is when you are silent, even when the abuser goes to the upper level of being sexually abusive or being physically violent, you will not have that voice or that way to defend yourself because you are weak on the inside. And actually, most emotionally abusive marriages start with emotional abuse, but sometimes it escalates to physical abuse, which will have even more dangerous consequences because now you don't have the voice to air your abuse. You don't have that voice because your voice was silenced by the emotionally abusive ways in the beginning of the relationship. That's why it's so dangerous and it should not be taken so lightly. So, how do you really spot emotional abuse? As I've said, like it can be so difficult to spot emotional abuse because it happens behind closed doors, and the perpetrator may only be subjecting you with emotional abuse but acting nice in front of other people. That's what mostly happens. Like nice, going to church, like charismatic and everything, but for you, they hurt you, they frustrate you, they make you feel worthless, anxious, confused, socially withdrawn, crazy, stupid, or you just feel like less of a human being. Every interaction with them, you feel like less of a human being. That's how you can know that you are being subjected to emotional abuse. You just feel less of a human being. Less, you feel like a shell of what you used to be in the past. So, the key thing to spotting if you are in an emotionally abusive relationship is if someone is constantly undermining your sense of self, is undermining who you are. And I'm going to share with you some common signs and some common examples of emotional abuse, but there are actually plenty. So, the first one actually is blame shifting. Blame shifting, actually, I made a video about this in the past. Blame shifting is where someone constantly blames you for their behavior or for their actions or blames you for what's beyond your scope of control. So, emotional abusers can blame you for something so that they can avoid taking responsibility, and they paint you as this bad person or as this person who's to blame for everything, even things which are happening in their lives. The other one is intimidation. This is like outright threats of harm, like ruining your life, like I'll make you lose that job, I'll make you not, I'll make you not ever walk in the streets again. It's just about instilling fear so that you can do as they wish, or instilling fear so that they can limit your freedom. The other one is isolation. Isolation is where they cut ties between you and the outside world. The outside world here can be your family, your friends, hobbies, your interests. So it's just about isolating you from the things you love or from the things that define you. The other one is guilt tripping. It's just so simple. Someone makes you feel guilty about something you've done or something you've not done so that you can do as they wish. I made a video about this in the past as well. You can check it in the description. The other one is gaslighting. Gaslighting is where like someone distorts your sense of reality and convinces you that your sense of reality is distorted. So this makes you feel so confused, anxious, and crazy. Like you get to the point where you're not sure or you're not able to distinguish between what's true and what's not. It can be words like you're too sensitive, you're overreacting, you're crazy. The other one is constant criticism and belittling. This is where someone like or an emotional abuser makes constant negative comments, insults, or put downs about you so that you can feel less of a human being or so that you can feel inadequate or you can feel small. Just about them putting themselves on a pedestal and then you on the lower pedestal. The other one is too much control. Someone might control who you talk to, what you do, what you wear, tracking your every move, tracking your every social media status, or just any form of excessive control in your life. It's more like someone is limiting your freedom. Someone doesn't view you as an individual. Like they can't even let you just breathe, or you can't even breathe like easily and freely without informing them. That's emotional abuse. The other one is humiliation. This is where like they may embarrass you in public, they may embarrass you in front of your parents, in front of your friends, so that they can just degrade you as this worthless human being. The other one is ridiculing. This is actually a tough one. Constant harsh jokes that make you feel bad about yourself. So there are many signs of emotional abuse, and some of them may not look like emotionally abusive, like something like ridiculing or sarcasm. They may look okay, but the one who can know is you, not even from the eyes of other people, because that's the main thing about emotional abuse. Like, it's hidden, so other people will not see, and the only one who can know them is you, the one who's being subjected to it. But the other thing is, you might also know about, have a list of emotionally abusive ways, but you may still find yourself entangled in an emotionally abusive relationship. This is because it does not happen like abruptly. It is a bit slow and gradual. And I'm going to be explaining this using a metaphor, because things like jokes, gaslighting, control, because isolation, they may happen so gradually. So that's why it may be difficult to spot emotional abuse even when you know about them, know in quotes. So let's understand this insidious or this subtle nature of emotional abuse by using this metaphor. I don't know if you've heard of this metaphor. This metaphor of frogs in boiling water. The metaphor states that if you put like a frog in boiling water, it will immediately jump out of the water. But if you put a frog like in cold water or cool water, and then gradually start turning the heat up, the frog will just adapt to the water and adapt to the temperature of the water till it boils to death. So it won't really see the temperature rise, it won't really feel the temperature rising, because it's adapting to the temperature, because you are just turning the heat slowly. So it will just realize when it's too late. It will realize when it cannot jump out of the water, because it will be so weak. So emotional abuse is the same way. Like, it starts small and gradually escalates over time. And this makes it really hard, like, for a victim to recognize that they are being emotionally abused. So, like, an example is the emotional abuser may start with subtle digs or subtle intimidation or harmless jokes, sarcasm, silent treatment, and then gradually escalate to more severe forms of emotional abuse like isolation, intimidation, or excessive control, or or even extreme silent treatment. So as time goes by, the victim may become so acclimatized or so adapted to these harmful behaviors, and may not even understand the full extent of the emotional abuse, the full extent of the abuse, until it has escalated to the level of the very dangerous levels of course, physical abuse or depression or self-harm. So it starts slowly by slowly. So because you adapt to the environment, you might stop seeing the big picture of the relationship. That's why it's so dangerous, and you may not spot it as early as possible. So in conclusion, emotional abuse is abuse, and you don't need to see the scars or bruises for you to jump out of the boiling water. Like, your emotional pain, your damaged self-esteem, your codependence, your ruined independence, your ruined dreams and goals are enough evidence for you to rise and pick yourself up from that relationship. Yes, those around you may not understand what you're going through. This is because they are also victims of emotional abuse, and they don't know about it. And those around you may also, like, constantly invalidate your experiences. But the thing is, the more you stay in these emotionally abusive relationships, the more you will find yourself like deeply entrenched in a hurtful environment. And of course, it may not be easy to get out of that unhealthy marriage, but because of course the odds will always be against you. But the only one who can break this cycle is you and me. Like you seeing the unhealthy nature of your relationship so that at least we can develop better relationships for our kids. And the other thing is, once you know about these forms of emotional abuse, we need to understand that even if you are single or even if you are just jumping, even you're in the early stages of your relationship, or even if you're just in a relationship, always work on yourself. You never really know these things, guys, because every relationship starts as this amazing thing. Like, is this the best thing which has ever happened in my life? That's why you always have to work on yourself so that you can see things clearly. Like, so that you won't drop your guard, like, drop your awareness. Sorry, not guard, awareness. Like, don't just jump into a relationship and then now sleep and then say, till death do us apart. No, that doesn't work. Once you are in a relationship, I think you should even work on yourself more because you are committing to something and you are committing to a place where you can be subjected to these forms of abuse. And actually, when you're working on yourself, it will either improve the relationship or it will improve the quality of your life. So it's a win-win for you. So, regardless of if you are single, in a relationship, always prioritize working on yourself so that you can see clearly and have a healthy relationship with yourself. Because that's the only gate pass to having a fulfilling life. Working on yourself, not just guessing things or just hoping. No, working on yourself. It's not easy, but it's the only gate pass to having a fulfilling life and reclaiming that life you deserve. Hope you found that informative, guys. As I've said, I have a master class coming up, and it will be really interesting talking about how to break free from these abusive patterns and to reclaim that life you deserve. So be sure to check it out. Until next time, have a wonderful day.